I recently attended the eBay Roadshow in Brisbane and was fortunate enough to have an opportunity to both hear from and directly speak to some resellers who are having great success with live selling in their businesses. This isn't something that I've spoken about on this channel before, but it is something that I've been questioning whether it is a fit or not for my business. And having these conversations, hearing from these sellers about their experience, really helped me to validate some of the thinking that I've been having behind where I'm landing on this decision in 2026. So, in case you are also sitting on the fence about live selling, I thought I would share what some of the insights that I got from these conversations were and how that has helped me to shape my final decision. But firstly, if you're new here, I haven't reintroduced myself in a while. I'm Cass. I source primarily from op shops to flip items online for a profit, and I share my experience with you along the way as well. Now, with that out of the way, let's chat about live selling. It's fairly new in Australia, but if you've been in the reseller space for a while, you might have seen things around for a long time like Whatnot, which is taking off here, and Poshmark Live, which we did used to have when we had Poshmark, obviously no longer the case. eBay are also now entering this space with eBay Live, so it's been available for a little while for collectibles, and it's just taking off now with fashion as well. So what is live selling? It is kind of entertainment crossed with selling. It can involve fast-paced live auctions where sellers are engaging directly with their buyers. So you're building community at the same time that you're making sales. It differs a lot in that way from traditional selling, which might be seen as a more transactional basis where you're just getting an order, either online or through a brick and mortar store and fulfilling it without really having that engagement piece with your customer, unless maybe there's an issue on the back end. We heard some really interesting statistics at the eBay Roadshow around live selling. One of the keynote addresses was actually from Eric Chen, who is the category manager for eBay Live in Australia. Eric had a really engaging, vibrant nature, and he made what might normally be some really dry statistics a bit more fun. You can tell he's definitely an entertainer, and I would reckon that's why he's the head of this category for eBay. So he shared that 40% of shoppers in the US have expressed an interest in live shopping. Drilling down into that further, 83% of Gen Z and 58% of millennials are engaging with live shopping in some form in the US. eBay view live shopping as the next wave of shopping in Australia and really globally. It's taken off in the US and in markets like China and the UK. But they were also clear at the same time that they consider what we might think of traditional shopping or traditional selling as the core value proposition for their business. One of the quotes from Eric that has stuck with me is, "Core grows live, live grows core." So they really see these types of selling or shopping as two sides of the same coin. So as I've mentioned, this video isn't just about eBay. There are some other avenues for live selling, or really one other avenue for live selling in Australia, and that is Whatnot. So you've probably seen this all over your social media, Instagram, TikTok, people jumping on Whatnot and having these really fast-paced, fun auctions where they're getting through lots and lots of products in 1 to 2 hours, depending on how frequently they stream. Something that was really interesting and I think was echoed through all of the conversations or presentations around live selling is that it is not going to be for everyone, and that is okay. It's going to take a certain type of business model, a certain type of person to provide that level of entertainment through a live shopping stream. So if you've been umming and ahhing, just know that it's okay if you're erring on the side of maybe it's not for me. So what are some of the key things to consider then when making a decision around whether or not you want to try out live shopping? A lot of what we heard or conversations we had were that live selling is probably more of a volume game than traditional sales. A lot of anecdotes about people who are having success with this is that their success comes from being able to move large amounts of stock at pace. Some of the presentations were really interesting around this. There were some features on some US sellers who are doing hundreds of thousands of dollars of sales on high-end products in live streams. Another, we heard from a guy who has a brick and mortar store that focuses on collectibles, and he was able to move, I think he said 650 Funko Pops in like a day, which was a massive result from him. But volume selling was really kind of echoed throughout all of these conversations. Another consideration was the time associated with live selling. Reselling obviously is not a passive income, but traditional selling is going to be more passive than live selling because it's not directly tied to the amount of time that you are spending streaming. To make sales at live selling, you have to be live, you have to be online. So that's something to consider. If you're someone like me, for example, who's trying to spend less time online and less time in your business, it's a really, really good one to have a bit of a think about. Tied a little bit to the volume piece, some of the commentary around live sales was that you do need to expect to be making sales at less than market value to be able to move volume of stock. So this could be a barrier to entry for some of us who are using op shops to source, who don't have those connections or suppliers to be able to buy a volume of stock with a low cost of goods. So profit margins, are going to be really, really key to consider if you're looking at where live selling fits within your business. And then the other, I think, really, really key point of consideration for live selling is, do you have the systems in place to support it if you're going to be selling a high volume of stock in a short period of time? Do you have a good way to process that stock into your business? Now, a lot of people did say that for live sales, the listing process is going to be a lot less complex. You're probably relying more on your title being right. You're not filling out tons of item specifics because you have the ability to physically show that item in a live stream and give your buyer a level of confidence about the quality that they're getting. However, you still need to do the upfront work to list those items on a platform, even if it is a lower effort. Where a large amount of effort is going to come into this is, say you're on a stream for an hour and you sell 100 to 200 items. It's not impossible. I've seen a few people do it when I've dipped in and out of live streams and been watching this on YouTube. So think about, on the back of that stream, you have this volume of stock to process and to get out to customers, and you want to do that quickly, efficiently, and without error. Do you have the right systems in place to support you to be able to do that? Or if you're like me, you're in a small space, what you see here is pretty much what I'm operating out of. Is that going to be a bit of a constraint for you to be able to use this model and to do it well? So I think all of these things together are important to consider if you are on the fence around whether live selling is or isn't right for you. One thing that I think, again, has stuck with me though, that one of the panelists shared, was how they tend to think about live selling in context of their bigger business ecosystem. And that is that your hours spent directly convert to sales, which increases cash flow. So that can just be a nice way to tie it all together, to think about how live selling looks different for you than perhaps a traditional e-commerce business. So after considering all of these points, as I've said, they've kind of helped to validate what I was already thinking about live selling as a part of my business as it stands at the moment. So as you know, I'm a part-time small operation, purposefully small operation as well. And considering all of these points, right now, live selling isn't a fit for my business. I operate more on a low volume turnover, high profit model. So there are some key barriers to entry for me for live selling in its current state in 2026. Some of those are access to the volume of stock that I would need to keep a live stream alive, to have that regular activity. So for me at the moment, I only list about 60 items to 62 items a month on all of my platforms. And that's just not really enough to have regular shows live. I also don't have the space, as I've mentioned, to store and process a large volume of stock. So this is it for me. I resell out of one regular sized room in my house. I only have, limited space, 2 racks of storage, and I don't really have, the room or a postage station dedicated to be able to process those items out of my business. And as I mentioned, I am trying to spend less time in my business, less time online, and tying sales and my time together directly with live selling just isn't appealing to me, to be honest, at this point in time. In addition to all of these points, my only exposure to live selling at this point in time is the couple of shows that I've dipped into to see what the fuss is all about, how people are operating it, and watching videos on YouTube from other businesses who are having success. I'm not someone who would hop onto a live stream to shop. So it doesn't really have that personal appeal for me. I don't really understand, I guess, the desire to shop like that. And that does weigh into my decision not to sell on those type of channels. It's just not something that is of interest to me, and I like my business to be interesting. I like to feel engaged and happy about what I'm doing, and I feel like because I don't get it, I think that would show up if I were to try to stream. Like, I don't think I could fake that type of enthusiasm for live selling. I'm in awe of people who can do it and can do it well and be engaging and build that community. But at this point in time, I just don't think that's me. All this said though, that's how I feel at the moment. I mean, I will keep a bit of a finger on the pulse and see how this space evolves in Australia. It is still relatively new for us, and potentially in the future something I might play around with. I'll never say never, but at this point in time, I just truly feel it's not a fit for my goals, my interests, just my business model in general. So that's it really. I wanted to share some of that information in case, like me, you've been a bit of a fence sitter in this space. I hope it's been helpful, and regardless whether your decision looks like mine to stay out of the live selling space, or maybe this is sounding really great to you and you want to dip a toe in, I think either way it's fantastic. It's a great way to have some diversification in your business, open yourself up to different channels, but don't feel like you have to do something just because it's shiny and new. If you're still unsure, maybe give it a go, feel it out and see if it's for you and make your decision that way. But just know that you don't have to jump on the bandwagon just because this is something that's taking off. I hope you found this video helpful. It might be a topic, as I've said, that I revisit in the future. Who knows? Maybe I will eat my words, but I am going to leave it there for now. I am keen either way to hear from you in the comments. Have you tried live selling? Are you like me? It's not for you. Or is it something that you're going to give a go? I'm really, really keen to hear about others' experience with this. But for now, I'm going to leave it here, and I will catch you on the next video. Thanks for watching.